There are many video game genres. We have roguelikes such as Risk of Rain 2 and Enter the Gungeon. We have first-person shooters such as Call of Duty and Halo. And we have open-world games such as Cyberpunk 2077 and Grand Theft Auto.
Did you kill him?
What kind of animal do you take me for? No, I didn't kill him.
Oh, fuck.
But I did kidnap his wife.
Oh, no!
And within those genres of video games, we also have subgenres that play a major role in giving the player a new gameplay experience. For example, we have movement shooters such as Titanfall 2, in which it's like Call of Duty, but with amazing and satisfying movement mechanics. And we have survival horrors such as Resident Evil, but more specifically, Resident Evil 4.
Women.
But in my opinion, Resident Evil is barely a horror game. Yes, you could argue that there are terrifying enemies and ooh, scary environment. Oh look, fog. Can you see the fog? The fog's coming.
Wake up. Wake up.
By no means am I saying Resident Evil is a bad game. No, it is in fact one of the best games I have ever played. But if we focus on the horror aspect of it, it is very poor.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
Because once you have the right amount of ammunition and healing, you're ready to face anything. And I think that completely ruins the horror theme of the game. My criteria for a good horror-themed video game, even if it's a subgenre, is to be scary, make the player feel helpless, and yeah, that's it. But there is one game where I want to dive deep into on how the horror subgenre of the game, or the horror theme of the game, does an excellent job into keeping the players on the tip of their toes.
I'm sexy.
And that game is Bloodborne.
Whoa, that roll! Why is there a naked guy rolling at what?
Guys, check out my new move.
Bloodborne is an action role-playing game made by From Software that, just like Resident Evil, has a survival horror subgenre. And the horror theme of the game is just phenomenal. And I would like to talk about how the game design, game mechanics, soundtrack, sound design, and lore plays a crucial part into the horror theme of the game, and why it does such a good job at doing so. And that's for the intro. Let's start with the video. Before I talk about anything first, I want to briefly explain the lore of Bloodborne, because some context is needed for me to convey my analysis to you guys. Since the story of Bloodborne is not linear, for one to understand the lore, the best way is to watch a 7-hour long analysis video. So the lore is as it follows. A college finds blood that belongs to a godlike race who they refer to as the Great Ones. The college did some research on that blood and they concluded that this blood can cure any disease known to man. So they gave away the blood to everyone in Yharnam, which is the city that they live in, free of charge, and everyone consumed the blood. However, the blood did not cure them from any disease. In fact, they ended up turning into some sort of beast. And you, as a hunter who is immune to the blood, it is your duty to cleanse the city of Yharnam. This shows that the beasts in Yharnam are still aware of their surroundings, and the reasons behind them attacking you is not only because of their instincts, but rather because of a sense of jealousy. They watch you as you consume those blood vials like it's nothing, without facing any sort of consequence for it, while they had to suffer and turn into disgusting beasts, killing their family and losing what they once had. This adds to the horror of the game, because this shows that everything you killed along your journey were once innocent humans, and they turned into these beasts because they were lied to. And also said by this beggar.
You hunters have got more blood on your hands. You drink the blood of half the town, and now this. And you talk of beasts. You hunters are the real killers.
This adds more horror into the game, because it begs the question into the player. Am I the good guy in this story? Bloodborne is a very difficult game. It is mostly driven on its self-induced anxiety action-adventure where death could get you out of nowhere. The weakest enemies in the game, even after hours of gameplay, can still kill you in 3 to 4 hits. There was always this uncomfortable feeling within me personally while exploring the world of Bloodborne, in which instead of getting used to it the more I play it like any other horror media, instead I got more cautious, worried, and even scared the more I continued to explore. With the enemies coming at you out of nowhere, to its horrifying gothic world aesthetic, Bloodborne always makes you fear the unknown because you do not know what's out to get you. Also, unlike any other horror game where if you are faced against a dangerous creature, you just go and hide in hopes of the entity going away. In Bloodborne, no matter what, you have to face your fears. Oh, you have arachnophobia? Well, too bad, here's an abandoned building filled with human-sized spiders. Something else I believe Bloodborne does great into putting fear into the player is that every time you die in the game, you lose all of your blood echoes, which is a currency used in the game to level up. You drop them usually where you last died, but most of the times it is picked up by whoever killed you. This results in the tension and the adrenaline between you and your enemy skyrocket and creates an intense fear for not only the enemy that already proved to you that he can kill you with ease, but also a fear of failure because you will lose everything if you fail. Another thing I would like to talk about regarding the horror of Bloodborne is the world aesthetic of the game and how its sound design and music plays a crucial role in making the player terrified throughout the game. The horrifying gothic architecture used in the world design of Bloodborne perfectly highlights the horror of actual gothic horror of the 19th century. The world design also makes the player feel like a foreigner, someone who does not belong in this world. You are the most sane entity in this world compared to literally anything else in the game. The map and character design of the game purposely giganticizes your surrounding areas in hopes of giving you a sense of vulnerability. And that is not the only way Bloodborne tries making you feel this way. With character designs from werewolves and zombies to cosmic creatures, all heavily inspired by H.P. Lovecraft's works, the enemies tend to be much bigger than you. And the ones that are the same size as you, or that they resemble a human, they remind you that they should not be messed with, adding more fear to the player because the game always reminds you how vulnerable you are to death. The horrifying world surrounding you and the dangerous looking creatures always puts the player in an alarming state, making the player feel like they are always being watched by an unknown entity. But what if I told you, after progressing through the game, this alarming feeling is not misleading? You are being watched by an unknown entity. When I first realized throughout the game, this entire time I was being watched by a godlike creature, it made me freeze in my place completely and send chills down my spine. Remember when I said, no matter what, you must face your fears in Bloodborne? Yeah, what if I told you, you will face one of those creatures? You having to face any sort of challenge that you thought were complete mystery or irrelevant even highlights how Bloodborne perfectly uses the fear of the unknown aspect of horror to make the player more scared. This isn't even the first time we witnessed this, by the way. When we climb this ladder at the beginning of the game, we hear a very loud screech. At first, you may brush it off and think it's just a sound coming from any other enemy you will face. But the more enemies you meet, the more you realize none of them made that noise, until you reach this bridge in which you believe that nothing is there. Also, when playing Bloodborne, there is no music playing in the back when roaming around the world. All you hear is your own footsteps and the sound of your surroundings. You hear heavy breathings from beasts, bloodlust for revenge, the moment they see a hunter like you. and the sound of a baby. All those noises add more fear into the player, making them more scared of what could happen to them. And one thing it will remind the player that those sounds are always there. But during every boss fight, there is its own soundtrack, and every single soundtrack plays a crucial role in Bloodborne's horror. My favorite and most impactful one, in my opinion, is from Ludwig the Accursed. This horrifying creature, that looks like an average British person, is actually the most human beast you can encounter. Ludwig was a warrior who turned into a beast after consuming the blood of the Grey Ones. But although his appearance did change drastically, he still had his humanity within him. After fighting Ludwig and depleting his health to the halfway mark, this happens to him. And the soundtrack.
You were at my side all along. My guiding moonlight.
The soundtrack perfectly encapsulates the sheer rage and desperation of Ludwig, because to him, you are the beast and he is the hunter. His swings are trained and focused regardless of how distorted he has become, because he is still clinging on to his last bit of humanity. This shows how perfectly the soundtrack of Bloodborne conveys to the horror of the situation you are in, to make the player feel like they are completely vulnerable and that they are in an unwinnable battle. To put it simply, if Dark Souls' music makes you go, oh yeah, this is hyping me up, let's do this, then Bloodborne's music will make you go, what the fuck did I put myself into? It's just so fucking cool.